All right, let's get right into it. While all eyes were on gold and silver, another metal, kind of the quiet one in the back, just staged an absolutely massive rally. It's become one of the hottest commodities out there. We're talking about copper, the industrial metal that suddenly started acting like a precious one.
So, just how massive are we talking? Well, over the last year, copper futures on India's multi-commodity exchange have racked up an incredible return of around 50%. I mean, that's a performance that blew past many of the major stock market indices.
And you better believe this didn't go unnoticed. As the Economic Times pointed out, this incredible surge is, quote, attracting the attention of investors. Suddenly, copper is in the same conversation as traditional safe havens like gold and silver. So this brings us to the big question we're tackling today. What in the world is driving this unbelievable bull run in copper? Is this just some temporary spike, or are we looking at a much deeper, more fundamental shift? Let's break it all down.
Okay, so first things first, let's look at the performance itself. Why is copper getting all of this buzz right now?
But here's the thing, this rally was not a smooth, straight line to the top. Not at all. While prices did smash records, even crossing that $12,000 per ton mark, the market has been a total roller coaster. The volatility has been just intense, with these sharp, sudden drops sometimes happening in a single day. This wild ride is a huge part of the copper story.
To really understand the price, you have to look at what's fueling it. And the story here is all about a massive, and I mean massive, surge in demand. Let's see how this is all building up.
You see, the demand isn't just coming from one place. It's more like a perfect storm, really, driven by three huge global megatrends. First, you've got your traditional stuff, infrastructure and construction. Second, the absolutely explosive growth of electric vehicles. And third, that worldwide push towards renewable energy. All three of these are incredibly copper hungry.
And check this out. This chart really drives the point home, especially when we talk about how big a deal the EV transition is for copper. An electric vehicle uses 3 to 4 times more copper than a regular gas-powered car. Now multiply that by the millions of new EVs that are going to be hitting the road, you can see why the demand forecasts are just soaring. And bringing it home to India, the numbers are just as dramatic. The domestic demand here is projected to jump from about 1.9 million tons today to over 3.2 million tons by 2030. That is a huge increase in a pretty short amount of time.
So, here is the crucial piece of the puzzle. While demand is absolutely skyrocketing, supply is really struggling to keep up. India, for instance, has to import a lot of its copper. Domestic production is pretty limited, and bringing new global mines online, that's a slow, super expensive process that takes years. This is that classic demand-supply gap that creates the perfect recipe for a price rally.
So, with a story this compelling, the next question for a lot of people is pretty obvious. How can I get some exposure to this trend? Let's explore the main ways you can do that here in India. Okay, so the most direct way to play the copper market is through something called futures contracts on the MCX. To put it simply, it's just an agreement to buy or sell copper at a price you set now for a date in the future. It's really a way to bet on where you think the prices head. But, and this is really important, you need to understand who this tool is really for. It's mainly used by two groups. You have short-term traders who are trying to make a quick profit from those price swings, and then you have industrial hedgers. Think of companies that actually use copper and want to lock in a future price to protect their business. This is not your typical long-term investment tool for the average person.
Now, a more common route for retail investors is through the stock market. In India, the big player here is Hindustan Copper. It's the country's only integrated copper producer. And no surprise, its stock saw a major rally that pretty much mirrored the rise in global copper prices. But, and I can't stress this enough, remember that metal stocks are notoriously volatile, and what happened in the past is never, ever a guarantee of what's coming next.
Okay, so we've seen the really strong bull case. But a smart investor always looks at both sides. So let's talk about the risks and try to get a more balanced outlook for the future. There are definitely some key risks to keep on your radar. First, that volatility we already talked about. Then there's global demand. I mean, if China's economy, the world's biggest copper consumer, slows down, you can bet that will hit prices hard. Currency fluctuations between the rupee and the dollar also play a huge role. And finally, you always have those geopolitical risks, things like trade policies or mining restrictions that can just disrupt the entire supply chain almost overnight. So, to kind of pull it all together, the outlook for demand looks structurally strong, mostly thanks to this whole green energy transition. Supply, on the other hand, is still a major bottleneck. Now, this paints a long-term bullish picture, sure, but you should absolutely expect some sharp corrections along the way. For investors, this means that while futures are an option for traders and producers are definitely benefiting, you have to watch the fundamentals like a hawk.
Okay, before we wrap this up, let's just quickly cover 3 really essential principles for anyone who's thinking about adding a commodity like copper to their portfolio.
First, diversify. Please never put all your eggs in one basket, especially one that's this volatile. Second, really understand the risk you're taking on. Futures are a totally different animal than stocks. And third, and this one's huge, stay informed. The commodity markets move incredibly fast, and you need to keep up with global economic news to really understand the forces at play.
And that really leaves us with the big, multi-billion-dollar question. Are we just watching another cyclical commodity boom that's just going to fade away? Or is this green energy transition fundamentally rewriting the entire story for copper, kicking off a new, supercharged era for this ancient metal? Only time is going to tell.